You know, as a science teacher, when I hear the term universal from universal design, the first thing that pops in my mind is the universe, which is the word we use to describe all of existence. All energy, all matter, all empty space is what's in our universe. As a teacher, that's kind of how we should view our classroom. What are all the things that could end up in our classroom? What are all the different types of students that could end up in our classroom? And that's our universe. And we need to define that. I think a lot of times we're not very proactive, we're reactive in our classroom. So when we get a student with a physical disability, when we get a student with a learning disability, when we get a student who needs a different type of instruction, instead of being prepared for that and having a plan for it, we're kind of reactive to it and kind of grasping at straws, trying to figure out what we do as we go along. And universal design kind of eliminates that grabbing at straws kind of hectic teaching method, and really gets you to stop and think about what could possibly end up in your classroom and how would you educate them. For me, the one that kept coming into my mind was a student who's blind, because the way that I teach, I do a lot of lecture, but I do a lot of drawings on the board, illustrations, I do a lot of videos, I do a lot of pictures and things like that. And a student that's blind is just not going to grasp those things. And I've been thinking, you know, for the past couple of days, how would I meet the needs of that student? How would I make those accommodations? And it's really hard. But that student could live in my universe, and I need to be prepared for that. So we need to be prepared as educators. And there's you know, as the article talks about, there's several things that we can do to be prepared for that. And you know, the first one is the climate of your classroom. What's the climate of your classroom like? Are you open to the kids? Are you accepting of them? You know, are they willing to come up to you and ask questions? And you know, do you talk to them, and do they talk to each other, and do they collaborate? What's the climate like in your class? Or do you prejudge kids? The school that I teach at, it's real small. There's not a whole lot of variation of our students, but I prejudge students all the time. When I go to the teacher's lounge and a 7th grade teacher says, you know, well, wait till you get, you know, little Bobby. Little Bobby he's awful. Well, I've already prejudged them when they come into my classroom, and I shouldn't do that. And I think that goes a long way to building a good culture in your classroom. You know, next, what can you do physically in your classroom to make your classroom a better learning environment? Do you wear a microphone if you have a low voice to accommodate students who can't hear very well? Do you allow students with poor sight to sit up front? Do you allow students who have a lot of nervous energy to kind of sit in a place where they can get up and move around, but it won't be a distraction to others? Do you set up your room so a student in a wheelchair can have access to everywhere in the room? So, you know, there's a lot of physical things you can do in your classroom to meet the accommodations of all those kids in your universe. You know, the next thing is content delivery. You know, a lot of students learn different ways. You know, we learn that in undergrad about, you know, you have auditory learners and all that. Are you trying to meet the needs of those kids? Are you delivering your content in multiple ways? Or are you just saying open to page 49 and you know, read chapter 4? Or are you trying to deliver in multiple ways? Are you giving the kids multiple resources? You know, something new that I kind of started this year is interactive notes, and I put them on my homework page, and the student can go there and click on the notes, and the notes come up. But then there's also links to interactive websites and YouTube videos on the content and things like that. And I try to give the kids as much different aspects of the content to kind of help those different types of learners. That's, you know, technology is great and can be used a lot in universal design. It can bridge a lot of gaps. Again, you know, I teach at a small school, and we've never ever had an English as a second language learner. I've never had to deal with that. I know maybe a lot of larger schools maybe deal with that on a daily basis, you know, year in, year out. But how would I deal with that? And I think that technology could play a big part in that. Translation technology. and things like that could really help me communicate with the kid and help them to communicate with me, and we can understand each other and have a relationship without having to have an interpreter there. And I think it would show the kid that, I really care about them and I want to get to know them, and again, create a good culture in my classroom. So technology is a great tool that we can use. There's so many different websites out there I search all the time for things in my content, and I find new things all the time about my content. And technology is just such a great tool for universal design to meet the needs of those children. Something else that we can do is, how are we interacting in our classroom? Are we providing opportunities for the students to come to me? The article talks about office hours. As a teacher, I don't really have office hours, but something I do allow the students to do is, I get there a half hour before school starts, and I'm there about 15-20 minutes until school ends, and I tell them, that's the time to come to me. If you need help with something, you can come to me before school starts. You can come to me after school ends, and I have that interaction with them. I also allow them to interact with each other. I do a lot of think, pair, share. I do a lot of peer review and peer assessment on things, and allow the students to kind of correct each other before they turn things in, which kind of brings us to our next thing, which is assessment. And how are you assessing the kids? Are you pigeonholing the kids into one type of assessment, or are you allowing multiple types of assessment to allow the student to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding? One great thing about being a science teacher is, we do a lot of labs, and we have a lot of interactive things that we can do, and the kids really seem to enjoy that, and I'm glad that stuff's kind of already built into my curriculum. But assessment is an important part of education. It's an important part of universal design. You need to be able to formally and informally assess your students so you can adjust the curriculum to them, because again, there's such a wide variety of students that are in your universe, and you need to meet the needs of all those kids. So assessment and feedback is so important. I kind of saw a funny meme the other day, and it had Ross from Friends, and a student came up and asked that they had graded his assignment before spring break, and Ross screams, "We were on a break," which if you watch Friends, it's really funny. If you don't watch Friends, I'm sorry for my rant, but we need to be grading this stuff, and we need to be giving them feedback so they can make adjustments on early assignments and see their mistakes, and we can correct misconceptions and allow the students to progress and be able to apply that knowledge successfully. I know that universal design, reading this article has really made me think about a lot of things. Like I said, how would I meet the needs of a blind student? I think that would be the greatest challenge for me in my classroom, and it's something that I've chewed on for a couple of days now, and maybe by next fall I'll have some ideas in place in case that ever happens. So again, to kind of sum up, universal design is kind of putting yourself outside of what's normal and focusing on the whole range of all the things that could end up in your universe. So, thank you.